Chile, strike of cargo haulers continues for the third day. With road closures, workers demand a decrease in fuel prices. Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermudez arrived in Turkey in the third stop of his international tour. And in Armenia, the Collective Security Treaty Organization Summit agreed to work on strengthening international and regional security. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Chile, the strike and partial road blockade imposed by the Confederation of Transport Companies, Fuerza del Norte, continues for the third consecutive day, after rejecting a government proposal to end the conflict. The drivers are demanding lower fuel prices and more security on the roads due to the increase in robberies, assaults, and looting of cargo. In response to these demands, the government offered to set up 12 safe rest areas and promised to inject $1.5 billion to stabilize fuel prices for the next 6 months. However, union leaders described the measures as insufficient and announced their decision to maintain the strike indefinitely. The peace broker at the dialogue table between the Colombian government and the ELN in Venezuela, Violeta Arango, said that this is a peace process negotiation for the Colombian people, who is expecting real transformations and the end of the use of violence.
It is a peace process, so it is not just about silencing the guns. It is about bringing about real transformation that may lead to dialogue of the whole Colombian society, so that we may live in peace without the need to resort to violence to solve our conflict.
Peace broker Violeta Arango also said that the arrival of the administration of Gustavo Petro has made a difference in the country, creating an opportunity for peace.
First of all, the country in 2017 was different. There was another administration. The current administration is different. For the first time in Colombia, there is a government that comes to a political tradition different from the right. That is the first difference. At present, Colombia has also been changed by the humanitarian crisis following the pandemic, and violence has also increased due to the policies of the previous administration, the government of Iván Duque. So those are two major differences. And we hope that in this process of dialogue we may reach agreements and move towards peace.
Likewise, Arango highlighted that Venezuela and Colombia are brotherly countries and they have common interests for a new era of peace in the country.
As we have repeatedly said these days, Venezuela and Colombia are not just sister nations, but rather Siamese. We are a single people divided by a border that is more of an imaginary line. So in that sense, what concerns Venezuela concerns Colombia, and what concerns Colombia concerns Venezuela. And it has been very gratifying for us to be able to count on the support of this sister nation of Venezuela.
Colombian President Gustavo Petro spoke at the inauguration of the National Meeting of Mayors in Cartagena and said that one major challenge for any leader is to address the current climate crisis. Petro urged all mayors to implement projects that not only take care of the problem, but that may include the relocation of the populations at risk. Finally, he said that farmers in the areas most affected by winter are living a disaster situation due to a high consumption of coal, oil and fossil fuels, which bring about more damage regarding climate change.
What each person affected is living today as a vital disaster is the result of the comfort and the standard of living of any average citizen in the United States, Europe, or Japan. They may say, here it goes again, the class struggle. But that is the scientific truth, that comfort and standards of living come from such a high consumption of coal, oil, and fossil fuels that has brought about a chemical change in the atmosphere and therefore the destruction, damage, and losses that we experience in our societies.
In Ecuador, President Guillermo Lasso has decreed a reduction in curfew time in 3 provinces while keeping strict security control measures. The provinces where curfew has been shortened are Esmeraldas, Guayas, and Santo Domingo de los Tachilas. President Lasso said the measure aims at reactivating the economy following demands made by guild organizations like Restaurants Association, Catering and Event Organizers of Guayaquil, and by the Guayas Chamber of Tourism, alleging a 50 to 70% reduction in sales and to loss of 15,000 jobs. The president said shortening curfew was made possible by a 20% reduction in criminal acts registered in early November. The state of exception is presumed to remain in force till mid-December. The president of Chile, Gabriel Boric, arrived in the Mexican capital, kicking off his official visit that will last until November 25th. The Chilean head of state arrived at Felipe Ángeles International Airport and was received by Undersecretary Maximiliano Reyes, the director of the Mexican Agency for International Development Cooperation, Laura Elena Castillo, as well as staff from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. President Boric regretted the suspension of the Pacific Alliance Summit confirmed by his Mexican counterpart Andrés Manuel López Obrador after the Peruvian Congress did not authorize President Pedro Castillo to travel to Mexico City. The Chilean president also announced that his work agenda will include meetings between Mexican and Chilean businessmen. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The United States Supreme Court allowed a congressional committee to receive copies of Donald Trump's tax returns, ending a 3-year battle by the body to see the documents the former president refused to release since his first White House bid. The court did not accompany its decision with any public comment, but it rejected Trump's plea for an order that would have prevented the Treasury Department from giving 6 years of tax returns for Trump and some of his businesses to the House Ways and Means Committee. The influential committee will continue to be led by a Democratic Party chair, in this case Congressman Richard Neal, until the new Congress is sworn in January, with the Republicans in the majority and therefore filling committee chairs following the midterm elections. The United Kingdom's top court ruled the Scottish government cannot hold a second referendum on independence next year without approval from the British Parliament, dealing a blow to nationalists' hopes of holding a vote in 2023. Delivering the judgment, the Supreme Court President Lord Robert Reid said the Scottish Parliament did not have the power to legislate for a referendum on independence because such bill would relate to the future of the Union of the UK, a matter reserved to Westminster. Reid added that in the absence of an agreement between the two governments, as happened in advance of the 2014 vote, the Scottish Parliament did not have the power to legislate for a referendum. Meanwhile, Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon accused the British government of outright democracy denial after the Supreme Court's decision. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan welcomed his Cuban counterpart Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermudez with an official ceremony at the presidential complex in the capital Ankara on Wednesday. The leaders held one-on-one talks, later followed by a joint news conference. According to the Turkish presidency, both presidents exchanged views on Turkey-Cuba relations and potential steps aimed at improving the cooperation between the two countries. They also discussed regional and global issues, Latin America and the Caribbean in particular. The visit coincided with the 70th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Turkey and Cuba. In Turkey, a 6.0 magnitude earthquake left 93 people injured this Wednesday. In this sense, authorities informed that most of the injured are from the regions of Dutchke Sakarya, Bolu, Zonguldak, Bursa and Istanbul, and warned that the number of injured could increase. Furthermore, officials say that so far no fatalities have been reported. Also, the Turkish Disaster and Emergency Management Office announced that the quake caused more than 70 aftershocks. The Collective Security Treaty Organization summit began on Wednesday in the Armenian capital of Yerevan. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan chaired a meeting of the Collective Security Council in attendance of the leaders of Russia, Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. The CSTO members will discuss current international and regional security issues and the main results of the activity of the Collective Security Treaty Organization during the intersessional period. One of the most important issues will be the improvement of the CSTO crisis response system and discussion of joint measures to assist Armenia. In the same context, state leaders from the Collective Security Treaty Organization, the presidents of Belarus, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan arrived in Armenia for the CSTO summit. The summit participants discussed key areas of cooperation as well as current international and regional problems. A package of documents was signed following the meeting, and the resolutions passed, which include developing cooperation between the CSTO, the Commonwealth of Independent States, and Shanghai Organization, equipping the CSTO peacekeeping forces with modern arms, military and special hardware, and special means establishing radiation, chemical and biological protection, and other medical support for the CSTO, as well as communication and crisis response systems. In Kazakhstan, officials from Russia, Turkey, and Iran have urged compliance regarding previous agreements on northern Syria at the end of the 19th round of consultations on the situation in the Middle Eastern country. The officials further agreed to implement the necessary efforts to ensure a normalization of the situation, including the humanitarian aspect. The parties further committed themselves to the fight against terrorism and to enhance trilateral coordination to contribute to political and economic cooperation in Syria. Likewise, the delegations reiterated the need for the Syrian Constitutional Committee to convene to ensure a safe return of refugees. A Chinese government notice said the city of Chengdu will conduct mass COVID-19 testings of all residents in 18 districts and counties from November 23rd to the 27th. Wang Hui, deputy director of the Chengdu Municipal Health Commission, said in order to detect infected people as soon as possible, cut off the transmission chain at an early stage, and curb the rapid rise of the epidemic, health authorities decided to implement mass testing across the city. The test will be carried out in each housing community for 5 consecutive days. In addition, residents will be required to show a negative nucleic acid test from the last 24 hours to enter bars and car rooms, gyms, and other indoor leisure and entertainment venues. We have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the south. Angola's Foreign Minister Tete Antonio said an agreement has been struck between which could mean the adoption of a ceasefire in the violence torn east of the Democratic Republic of the Congo as soon as late Friday. DRC President Felix Tshisekedi met with Rwandan Foreign Minister Vincent Biruta in Luanda on Wednesday as tensions soared between the neighbors amid bloody militia violence on their border. Eastern DRC has witnessed fierce fighting in recent months between Congolese troops and the M23 rebel group. Angola's foreign minister added that the parties also agreed to demand the immediate withdrawal of M23 rebels from the occupied areas. The clashes triggered a diplomatic row, with the DRC accusing Rwanda of aiding the rebels, something that its far smaller neighbor denies. The East African community, of which Rwanda is a member, also vowed to deploy a joint force to quell the violence.
The mini-summit decided the following. A. The cessation of hostilities in general and in particular of M23 attacks against the FARDC and MONUSCO as of Friday, 25th of November 2022 at 6 p.m. o'clock.
The Palestinian Health Ministry confirmed Israeli forces killed a 16-year-old Palestinian boy on Wednesday during a nighttime raid in Palestine. The ministry added that Ahmed Shehada was killed by an Israeli bullet that hit his chest. 4 other Palestinians were wounded during the army raid in Nablus city. one seriously. Violence in Palestine has surged over the past several months as Israel has ramped up arrest rates, killing more than 130 Palestinians and arrested hundreds others. Shehada is the 200th Palestinian killed by Israel this year and the 51st child. One person was killed and 19 others were injured Wednesday morning in twin explosions at two bus stations in the occupied sector of East Jerusalem, according to Israeli police sources. A 16-year-old boy was killed and 11 other people were wounded in the first blast before a second one, half an hour apart, hit a stop nearby, wounding 3 people. According to authorities, both devices were apparently filled with nails and were detonated from a distance. Jerusalem's Shahid Sadek Hospital said a man had died of his wounds from the first explosion. The violence has flared in recent months, particularly in the occupied West Bank, where the Israeli army has launched near-daily raids since a series of deadly attacks on Israeli targets earlier this year. This Wednesday, Qatar 2022 Football World Cup saw exciting games and some unexpected results. From Doha, our correspondent Carlos Montero brings us the details of Day 4 of this sporting event.
I'm here at Al Tumama Stadium in Doha, only a few minutes from downtown Doha in Qatar. What a wonderful day of soccer we have today. What a wonderful day of football, like we call it in the whole world, but in the USA. The group E and F played today was great. Soccer, we started with Croatia, a tie with Morocco was a big tie for the African team, who was playing one of the best national team of the world in 2018 in Russia. Croatia finished second. They lost in the final against France. Then we got the big surprise of the day, another big surprise in this tournament, where we have surprises and a lot of goals. Japan beat Germany 2-1. Then we're talking about a lot of goals. Oh my God! Okay, thank you. They scare me. Okay, let's keep talking. It's the passion of the sport. We have to keep working. Then Viva Mexico. And then I was talking about behind me. Spain beat Costa Rica 5-0, and the last match of the night is going to be Canada, another team from CONCACAF, against Belgium. Tomorrow is going to be a fantastic day of football. We are going to have Ronaldo, we are going to have Suarez, we are going to have Cavani, we are going to have Ronaldo. I told Ronaldo, Suarez, Cavani, and Neymar. I was forgetting. They surprised me, the guys from Mexico, and I cannot think much. Thank you very much. Sorry for the interruption, but that's the way we are working here under these conditions. Go back to you, I'm sorry.
And just as the hearts of millions of fans lift the emotions of the Qatar 2022 World Cup, teleSUR joins this sporting event with From the Field, a show that brings news, analysis, reviews, and more to our audience. Don't miss it. Our show airs at 1 p.m. local time in Caracas and 12 p.m. New York. Remember, From the Field, only on teleSUR. We have come to the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.